Tay, or you want me? Can
Yeah,
I
yeah,
it
just
says it right there.
yeah,
Sheesh.
just
All
take.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So, welcome to another episode of Objectively Aggressive, and specifically the Lighthouse series. And it's a special night because we're gonna be moving. Football season is just has us all over the place. So right now, we're gonna take some time to get the love up and get some sharing in right now. So y'all get the love up real quick when we get this together. Hey, that it might the thing might be in the background. So I had that issue. That was what was going on last time when I was trying to jump on yours, Tay. That feedback, I had that Facebook
like,
up.
yeah. Yeah, you gotta
All
get
right.
like a mic set up.
Yeah, I was doing that, trying to do the little headphones, and it was throwing me all the way off.
Yeah,
All right, y'all good to go?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, good, bro.
All right. So, on today's episode, Lighthouse series, we got Dr. Ham, of course. Welcome back, sir. We got Tay, my boy Tay from Yam Sam Podcast. That had me on a couple of times, so we done fellowship. And it's Tuesday, ain't no football, no excuse not to get it in. And
Yeah,
so hey, I wanted to talk about two things. I got one we always talk about, it's always at the forefront of our minds, and that's blackness,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
not only that, I also want to talk about love. And specifically, that's going to be our little special topic because Doc, he's going to break down just a little bit what he knows about these different things about love and how we apply it inside this world we live in. So it's not just blackness. It's for me, it's love, reverence for all, but the consciousness we live in,
Mm,
right? And that's Afro American for me, but we've been placed in this blackness, and so we maneuver through it,
mm,
and we make it work for us, right? And
mm.
so with that, the sweet serenade to blackness. Here we go. So we're gonna mention his name once or twice. Let's try not to make it too much. Um I'm gonna start off with my sweet serenade to a comment that I made about Kanye going to his own planet. And that wasn't necessarily a shot at him like, oh, I can't stand him, but it's getting to the point where I think he might be able to afford to go, and it might be something worth discussing. Right? And that's just because there's a he is too forward thinking and a lot of the things that he do for the normal average human being. And so I'm saying, like, as one person who thinks he might be a genius and kind of understands Kanye, he
Mm.
needs his own planet. Doc.
no, man. I always tell you, man. I try not to spend a lot of my focusing on individuals because I think that it can be a distraction. Because I find that when I talk to people about blackness, I was having a conversation with somebody about the black community, and then I asked them a question. I said, "Is there a black community, or are we a black shared trauma group? Because who are we without our trauma, without our triggers? Who are we?" Now we have delicacy, we have foods, we have lingo, we have all the attributes of a culture. But I find that when it comes to blackness, one of the things that we've never really established is how to differentiate the bourgeoisie, the blacks who have created a success in our system, and how to sustain and maintain that success. Because what I truly find is, in order to be a successful black person, you have to be non-threatening to whiteness.
Mm.
Because if you become a threat to whiteness, then that black celebrity that you have will be diminished. So I think that that's what you see with a lot of these intellectuals, I listen to a lot of these individuals talk. I really do, because I'm trying to find unification theory. Because my first thing is, how can we find common ground? But like you were saying, if you're on another planet, we can't be on the same ground. So
Right.
so what I find a lot of times is that people won't use the rhetoric because we're in a very what do you call it, like titillation environment, where like we want to get fanfare, but I find that we don't look for entertainers to be Black leaders, because we've always seen that one thing, right? Your mouth on empty, or your brain on empty, but your mouth's on full. And so what I find happens in most instances, we have to make sure that when we're talking about the Black community, we can say we're always the forgiving ones. No matter what Kanye does, there's always going to be a part of Blackness that says he's part of us. And we've all heard the mottage, all skin folk and kinfolk.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, I think that when you start to talk about Blackness and that idea of celebrity in the capitalist system, it has to assimilate into a non-threatening. And I think that's what the whole White Lives Matter was. It's like, hey, white people, I am non-threatening. I want your money. I want your investment. I want your inventory. I don't want you to essentially associate me with this BLM movement, even though the idea, like I told you last time, when did we always knew white lives mattered. That was never a question. But when did Black lives start mattering? From when did they start mattering? Because we can always say they mattered, but they didn't matter from 1776 to 19 fill in blank time period. So So if we don't answer that question, then we're only going to be antagonistic, and we're not going to go to that root of that issue.
Okay, so Tay, speak on it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with Doc, man. That is part of, my issue with the whole Kanye thing, man, and it's something that I touched on. My little Facebook post was that, you know what I'm saying, like Kanye, you'll see Kanye doing this stuff, and there will be Black men who will come out and defend the coonery, right? Because there are Black men who benefit from the white patriarchy, right? Like Dr. Kabir is saying, you know what I'm saying? And those Black men, because Black men, we're the ones that are closest to patriarchy, right? With a lot of our jobs, and we're mainly around white men, so we know how white men think and operate. But at the same time, we don't want to create a separate Black liberation, right? A separate Black, like, we don't want to create our own, or understand that we are an ethnic group, right? Yeah. And we don't want to call ourselves an ethnic group, right? We want to be racialized. And I tell people this all the time, man. White people are not a culture. They are not an ethnic group. They are a race. That is it. They have no cultural connection. That's why they steal culture. They have no ethnic connection. You know what I'm saying? And it's regional, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you'll have your New Jersey Italians are different than your Chicago Italians. You know what I'm saying? And then you got your West Virginia Irish. They're different than the South Carolina Irish, right? Yep. They're all different. They won't even recognize each other. But, as an ethnic group, we have cultural norms, you know what I'm saying, that goes, that we all share, you know what I'm saying? Like Doc saying, you know what I mean? And when you being a Black person and you wearing a shirt that says White Lives Matter, and you put this White Lives Matter shirt on Black people and have them parade them in front of white people, you know what I mean? Like Doc saying, you know what I'm saying? Here's an individual who always wants to find white admiration, right? Whenever that dude's down, right? Then he comes back to the community. Then he comes back to the ethno state, you know what I'm saying? The ethnic group, you know what I'm saying? But when he's up, you know what I'm saying? He's out there, he's out there talking about 400 years. Why y'all still slave? He out there wearing "Make America Great Again" hat. You know what I'm saying? But when he's down,
flags.
Exactly, the Confederate flag. But when he's down, he's on sway. You dig what I'm saying? So, but again, it's one of those things to where Black people need to understand. We need to understand what the bourgeoisie is, the Black bourgeois. We need to understand that Black capitalism will not save us. You know what I'm saying? And really what Kanye wants you to do is consume. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So that's a good point. Kanye is more into consumerism.
Absolutely.
Right? It falls under capitalism, but he is definitely benefiting from capitalism in multiple different ways, and especially in the Black community and other communities. And so my conversation about his existence in those different realms that y'all just spoke on is his ability to be able to go back and forth
Yeah.
because it's so fluid. And I would say that Kanye is struggling, in my opinion, because I'm struggling. I'm struggling because, you know, I don't have my mother anymore.
Yeah.
And I lost her old enough to be grown, but young enough to still feel the lack of unconditional love, Doc. And we talked about that. And that's why I wanted to talk about love. But I feel like Kanye he's not loved.
Yeah.
Everything that has been tied to his success has been secular. It's been an external power value, and it has not touched his soul the way that it needs to. That's why all his music he's trying to touch everybody's soul. He's digging in his soul. He's putting out. Kanye has been doing some shit for years that people did not even can't. You can go back and listen to it, be like, man, boy, he was on something. And Kanye can spit too. I mean, I'm not saying he the best ever, but he was right there with Jay. You can't help but come get some of that swag, right? So I give Kanye his respect, but he is America. Okay. I like to say that I'm America because I'm a mix of everything that I've tried to take advantage of, and I turn the pain into product for what I've been able to do at my lower level, right? So as we keep this moving, I look at Kanye as the American dream, but the American dream comes at its consequence, right? You get to see, I get to see his PTSD right up front because I know what it looks like. Like when I'm going through it and I spaz on somebody, if somebody see me spaz at a restaurant, it's just a regular dude spazzing. But if I happen to be somebody famous, oh, look at Kalvin, look at Kanye spazzing, right? And so I see it. And so it's not judgment, but I'm like, yo, Kanye, you got enough money, man. Go build a planet. Go like you're trying to change America. I get it, but like you have enough resources where you might be able to build your own community for real. What you think about that?
You get into this idea, man, and I put a post up there about the Black Anglo-Saxon. And see, what I find out is our Eurocentric mentality is what the American dream is, because we don't have African minds anymore. We don't have African futurism or African present minds, because we have been trapped, enslaved in a Eurocentric culture where the dream is how much I can assimilate by my wealth. But let me tell you the one thing that Black people will never get in America, which is whiteness. Because whiteness is property. When you are white, you possess something that no matter how much money you get, like what Chris Rock said, there ain't a poor white person who would trade places with me right now, and I'm rich. Because whiteness is property. And what does that mean? It means that any attack on whiteness devalues it amongst the whole. That's what white solidarity is. White solidarity is, even if I'm not racist, that's at the point. It's I have value. If my home got value and the neighbors ain't cutting their grass, my value goes down. So the idea is, how do we eliminate people? Because we have a combination of two phenomena at once. We have classism mixed with racism. Yeah. And no matter what class you get to, the racism is still there. Yeah. And what we have found is proximity to whiteness has a value, because we understand that I can get favor with the legal system. I understand that I can get access to capital. I can get access. And I think therein lies the challenge with Kanye. So I would say that the American dream, which I find always puzzling, because I find that if you're dreaming to get something, it's illusionary. It's illusionary. And what we found is that materialism does not sustain you. Materialism does. You can have $40 million in the bank and jump off a building.
Boom.
Because what's inside, and I think that going back to Kanye, it's if you are double-minded, you will be unstable. And you cannot have a Eurocentric brain and an Afrocentric brain at the same time, because they're diametrically opposed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree, man. And you know, the one thing I'll say about, you know, is that I I think that's one thing about America is that there is no capital without exploitation, right?
Got you.
So you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
what Kanye did was it was exploitation, man. Like you are exploiting a group, man. You are exploiting a group for capital. That's what you're doing. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And also, you know, people need to understand, you know, why, you know, Kanye is doing it, because when you identify as white, whiteness is wealth, right? There's a story of a young black girl in the early 1900s. She becomes one of the youngest millionaire in the country from oil, right?
Yep.
Her grandfather gave her some land or something like that, and they found oil on the land. But you know what they did? They changed her race to white. Now, what? She's black, right? They changed her race to white, right? They give indigenous peoples, they give the indigenous tribes land, right? We know land equals wealth. Well, guess what their racial category becomes? It becomes white, right? When Europeans come to this country, right? Europeans come to this country, the government gives them housing, give them jobs, give them schooling and everything like that. What does their racial category becomes? It becomes white because they get wealth. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, you know, and back to you saying the American dream, it is about exploitation, because guess who didn't get that wealth? And guess who will never, like you're saying, Doc, who will never be able to classify themselves as white.
Yep.
You know what I mean? No matter how much you parade yourself out there, right? You know, he out there with Candace Owens, you know what I'm saying? Who makes money. The only reason she has a job is to denigrate black peoples. You know what I'm saying? Like, she gets money for that. You know what I mean? And so, you know, to me, the American dream is that is a dream, because it cannot be a reality, because we live on this plane of reality of where we have capital is real. You know what I mean? You have to give, you have to build economy.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you can't build economy without, you know, exploitation, without ethics, right? You can't build an economy with, you know, yeah. But if you look at a group positively, you wouldn't do what Kanye did, man. And I understand, you know, and I'll land my plane here, man. And I understand, you know, people like to defend Kanye by saying he has you know, whatever mental health issues or whatever. But you know, the things that Kanye say, you know what I mean, when he denigrate black people, that has nothing. His mental health issue is that he wants to be white. That's his mental health issue when he denigrates black people, when he say these things about, when he wears a White Lives Matter t-shirt, when he puts on a Make America Great Again hat, when he's hugging President Trump while he's dissing Obama. You know what I'm saying? Like, that speaks to a whole, that speaks to a self hatred. That speaks to self hatred. It doesn't speak to
there it is.
it doesn't speak to his
Hey.
mental stability.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we getting deep. I love it. All right. So let's talk about, let's move into the capping section, right? Like, you know, capping section is where a lot of people be capping because they either don't know better or they just full of shit, whatever, right? So we, you know, no capping here. So with the capping section, we talk about a confident opinion. And so as we move into the confident opinion portion, you say it's self-hatred. So that means there's no love for self, right? So there's that word love again, Doc. And I just want you to, just as I check these boxes, as we get closer towards a certain part, I want a cocky explanation on love from Doc. Put him on a freestyle spot. Please do that for me. Man, but you know what I mean? I know you got it, right? So my confident opinion is that people don't know what love is. I'm gonna get Doc to speak to it, but not knowing who you are. And so, you know, when you have a mother, I think a mother pours into you to kind of give you who you are, or a grandmother. You got people who do it, but you know, I was watching Soul Food last night, right? And there's so many things that jump out to me about that movie, like, you know, every Sunday eating that good food that'll kill us. Yeah. Right. But it brings the family together, you know, and like she died, but as she was going out, it looked like my grandmother's, like both of my grandmothers ended up getting their legs amputated. You know what I mean? Like I'm watching this movie, but I'm watching how that love that she had spread like that.
Yeah.
And there was different types of romantic love. There was love between the families. It was just showing love. And it's like
Yeah.
you got people who show you who you are. And I don't think Kanye has had a real good mirror in a long time, because all his mirrors have been a external power and about success, especially coming from where he came from. But his mother was very intellectual and she kept him on a path. I can't remember what Kanye's dad was. Kanye loses his mother back in what, 07, 08. He has no path anymore but external power, which he's winning. He's got Jay-Z. He blows up. He has Kim Kardashian, which no judgment to her, how her fame is and her life. Like there's a lot of different things going on, but the love for self and the different love that he's reaching out for, because he wanted a certain love from Jay-Z that he did not get. Okay. He got love and got billions, but he wanted some big bro love that I think Jay-Z, you know how Jay-Z is, man. I got a best friend from New York. I know how they do. No diss.
Jay-Z a business man. He told you.
Yeah, business man. Like his whole thing with his wife out there, he's still getting it and they still together. Okay, he a whole business for a reason, because it takes a certain coldness to be in that world. I don't think Kanye had the coldness to be all the way in that world, but he had already made it too far. And so everything took over. And now he's just beyond blackness and just existing, doing all this stuff. And he's able to do it. And it's like, damn. No love. No love. And there's different types of love that he was reaching for with Kim, with Jay-Z. He lost his mom. Like all the different things you see, like even with white people wanting to be accepted. So talk to me, the confident opinion.
Well, so yeah, you can't give somebody something that you don't have. And I say that because, you know, my mother used to whoop me, but then she would tell me she loved me afterwards. And as a young person, I didn't know what that meant. So I associated love with pain and punishment. I associated love with physical abuse. And so I thought, I don't want this love because it does not benefit me. And so I didn't realize that maybe that's how she got love. And you have trauma cycles that are being repetitive, and people who don't know how to do something pretending like they know what to do. So if I don't know how to do something, I'm going to mimic what I think it looks like. I'm going to mimic it. So I'm going to be giving, because people who love give, but now I get taken advantage of because I'm just giving all the time. And so I think that there's a energy that I believe that when it comes with love, comes with peace. Love has accoutrements. And I think one of those accoutrements is peace, meaning that it has to prove nothing to no one. It exists in and of itself, and it is beneficent, is benevolent. But at the same time, I find that from our cultural perspective, is that we've only seen love from, once again, the Eurocentric love. That's how big a birthday gift did you buy me? Because I'm going to associate your love with what you gave me. And so therefore, if I'm only giving you things that are perishable, then I can't stake any love into it, because that will dissipate. But what do I have? And I think for us, one of the biggest things that we like to do is we are showy, because one of the things that you have is that when you have people who haven't had anything, they have to show you, you know how it is when you first got that first check, you ain't never had a check, you went out and bought all that stuff you wanted from back in the day that you could have now. And I think love is one of those things that we're going to find you cannot purchase it, because I do believe that it comes from something that's genuine. And I think that you start to look for people who want to give you something that they never had. But the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life is to have a desire for something, but not the power to bring it forth. Because desire without power makes you feel impotent. And if you don't know how to reconnect desire, because I believe we have been shown what love should look like. Well, if he don't buy me a Ferrari, he don't love me. It's like, no, but he gave you his last $5. And that meant more to him than any car in the world. So I think that we have a jilted scale, and we've been measuring love off of all of the wrong materialistic things and not hard stuff that brings you peace. Because if it don't bring you peace, you can keep the love.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
yeah, Doc, I agree, man. You know, the one sad thing I'll say about Kanye's mom death, if we remember why she died getting plastic surgery. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
So, like, it correlates to her son now wanting aesthetics,
Yeah.
approval. You dig what I'm saying? Like, and again, it comes from a cultural thing. You know what I mean? I know one thing me and KJ we talked about, man, was like, it is one thing that I believe, you know what I'm saying, is that we as black people gotta stop saying cultural generational curses, and we gotta say generational trauma.
Trauma.
Generational trauma that our ancestors or our parents and our grandparents weren't able to address, right?
Yeah.
Were able to, and they addressed it through alcohol or drug abuse or committing crime, or you know what I mean, or beatings or being abusive, and all these things, you know what I'm saying. So whenever I say I'm breaking something, I'm breaking generational trauma, because that means you're dealing with the root issue,
Yes.
with the root problem. You're not dealing with the aesthetics. You're not dealing with the surface level stuff. And I think that's when we talk about Kanye just handles the surface level stuff, you know what I'm saying? Which I do believe he goes through depression, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He has these highs and low lows, you know what I mean? I'm not a person. Only reason I follow Kanye because I'm a hip hop head. I love rap music, you know what I'm saying? That's the only reason.
That's the
Everybody
only reason, like sometimes the only reason.
Celebrity stuff, I don't follow celebrity stuff, but it is something that we as black peoples that we have to address, right? And of course it goes to the capitalism, right? Because part of being, I always connected to history, man, because people will say, oh well, black people bought slaves. Yeah, that's true. They bought slaves because white people brought slaves. So they wanted to show that, hey, I'm American too. I can buy stuff too. I can do all these things just like you. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, what I mean. So when you look at somebody like, like Yay, man, or any celebrity that's out here doing what he's doing, man, we really have to really tear down the consumerism aspect of our culture. We consume the wrong things, man. We do, man. Like, there are people out here, you know what I'm saying, who don't understand economy, right? They don't understand, you know what I mean? Like, we know the folk out here who's going out here buying Jordans, and you know what I'm saying, and they're renting. You know what I mean? Rather, and they could be saving money for a house, you dig, or starting their own business. You know what I'm saying? People forget that black fashion started in the black community, and we allowed Tommy Hilfiger, we allow Polo, we allow Gucci, we allow all these other groups to co-opt our fashion. You know what I'm saying? And co-opt these things that we created. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we just really need to bring it back. We need to really encircle the culture and really bring it back, man, and bring it back into, as a person that lost his mom, you know what I'm saying? I understand the love that my mom poured into me, you know what I'm saying? But the one thing my mom gave me was positivity to be black, to be who I am, you know what I'm saying? To always, walk, you know what I mean, with a certain, walk with my shoulders back. Now, of course, I have black men as well, but there's nothing like a black woman that's telling you, you have value, and that you don't have value because they seek consumerism. Right? We got all this talk in our community about high value and low value people, and I really don't like that.
Yeah.
But because it's really about consuming. But my value to my mom was just being a man in this world, you know what I'm saying, and being able to, and my siblings, you know what I'm saying, being able to give that out to the world. And I think Kanye forgot that, you know what I'm saying, that his love that his mom gave him was enough, you know what I'm saying. And he started looking for exactly who he wanted to be. That's why he's Kim Kardashian, white women he be around, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of things there, but you're right. One of the things I would say is that sometimes you get exactly what you ask for. and it ain't what you thought it was gonna be. And so I can definitely tell you that I've been there a million times, and I'll probably be there a million more. You know, because there's a hit dog gonna holler, and so we all exist in the world that we came up in, and so our experience, our thought processes are as such our mental model, and so our mental model is everything that's been poured into it on purpose and by proxy, which is our parents. And so like with my mom being like 9 years younger than my dad, a military brat, her existence allowed her to be very diverse, you know diverse diverse enough to put me in the world to understand privilege, to understand that I'm a privileged black man that has been around the white culture more than a lot of other most black people, I would say, but not more than some other black person who just lived there. I was there. I visited enough to learn a couple of things and be like, so when you see this, this will happen. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not to be mocked, but it's to be understood, because like you were talking about, whiteness exists as a race, but as the culture, like the soul doesn't exist the same way, but still lives, because I've seen it. You know what I mean? It's just some will never reach it because, and it's so far gone, and I'm not here to do it. But I can tell you this, there's a lot of things to be said, right? Like, I'm not a person who buys, number 12 Jordans all the time. But I recently got me a pair for my birthday because I got $100 off or something. And so it's only about $100 for me, right?
Yeah.
And so I fed into a little consumerism.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Time to time,
yeah,
bro.
but you know what I mean? But it not being the thing that drives me, but my particular reason was buying a certain color to go with certain outfits that I have, that with my clothing brand that I'm making, right? So I'm juxtapositioning black high fashion, which is not just black now, because I was watching ESPN and I surely saw Jordans with a blazer on a white guy, right? So I'm now trying to mix everything to present this facade, because it's a facade, because we all just put forth what we think is real, but anybody could say, oh, that's not real, because it has to be real to them. So I say facade in the existence of what you see like a mirage, because I'm nothing until I'm something to you, right? Just like Kanye's nothing till we hear about him, we decide to give him power to talk about him.
Well, and so you talking about the issue of mass distraction. So when you talk about distraction, I mean, this is what the Romans learned. The Romans learned we need the Colosseum because the mob, if we don't give them bread and circuses, they will revolt. So let me talk about this idea. We have to deconstruct this idea of race. Race is socially constructed. Before 1671, there was no white race. Okay? There was no such thing as a white race. You were German, you were Anglo, you were Polish, you were Swedish. So the idea of the consolidation only came for power. It's the only reason this came together. Crime statistics in America before 1930 were itemized by European nationality. Okay, so we have to understand that if it's socially constructed, it can be socially deconstructed. Because right now, if you took the black population by itself in America and you itemize every European nationality, with the exception of Anglo, we'd be number 2. We'd be number 2. And we're not a minority. So the idea that we are a minority is fallacy. We're not a minority. And so let me talk about this idea. So 2 things to your point about when a black person owned the slave, it was usually their family member that they bought.
Right.
Usually a family member. And in Louisiana and a lot of these other places, because of geographical issues, in some instances, you couldn't even reside in the state if you were a free black. But I talk about this because I find that anybody who gives my enemy ammunition is my adversary. If you give my enemy ammunition, you are my adversary. And I will tell you how the arguments of Kanye are deconstructed. It's first off, look, Kanye is a successful black man. You can be successful, black man, if you just shut up, stop talking about race, and get on your capitalistic like Kanye instead of being victims all the time. See, this is
Victim
the argument
mindset.
that they need to use. They need to point to, look at this black person who was successful. He don't have a victim mentality like you got. See, if you didn't have that victim mentality, you could get up off your. But see, the system's always going to need a Jack Johnson. See, Jack Johnson was Kanye before Kanye, because Jack Johnson was a black man operating in white spaces, and they had to pass laws to stop this black man from consorting with white women. So what they realize is that we can't fight Jack Johnson. We have to bring him in.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened between Jack Johnson and Joe Louis. They had to understand that culturally, we cannot make the same argument that we made when they were slaves. We have to elevate. We've all seen that clip. We have to elevate them, because if we don't, they will become leaders against us. So that's what I say about distraction, because I don't look at Kanye as a leader. He might be a genius, but I remember genius is misunderstood. The idea of genius is to be misunderstood. It's I don't understand where his mind works at, because I will tell you this. If you broke down the social construct of race and then you automatically left capital alone, then you would have the same system. Because the one thing about black people is we take what you got and we maximize it. Well, we gonna put our ang on it, and then it's gonna be like to the extreme, which is why I start to see that when you start talking about mental illness, one of the things that I find out, to your point, is that we do use mental illness as an excuse for behavior, but at the same time, we don't understand that if we don't address the underlying trauma, to your point, we are going to be looking at people who are, if my adversary uses an argument that I made, I will change my argument. And I think that for us, I've heard these people talk to black audiences. They know how to say all the shuck and jive stuff.
Oh yeah.
Or the single fatherhood. They know all the code words, but they can code switch. And that's all I see. I see code switching. They know how to play to a white audience. Unfortunately, in today, we have mass media. So you can't code switch like you could 30 years ago.
Right.
You code switch today, we calling you out. Like, you hypocrite today. So I think that's the problem. We're watching code switching in real time. Whereas before, you had to wait 4 or 5 weeks to get that magazine article from Paris back to the US. And I think that's the challenge that we're running into, is to not be distracted, because we need to focus on one of the singular things is unification of thought, because it does not push the conversation further if we're still relitigating what he does or doesn't do. It's we're pushing forward or we're staying stagnant.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why, one of those things, man, that the conclusion that I had to come to is that, like, look, man, we can't save everybody, man. You know what I'm saying? We just simply can't, man. You know what I'm saying? And I was having this conversation with a sister of mine, and she had we talk about black business, right? And she was dealing with black business. We really support black business. However, there was this issue with this one black business where there were some issues, with the black business, you know what I'm saying? And I had to tell her, I'm like, look, sis, there are some black people we got to leave behind. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't respect your time, they don't respect your money, and they don't respect you. You know what I'm saying? They'll catch up. You know what I'm saying? But we just got to leave them behind. You know what I'm saying? So, it's an unfortunate place to be. Right. It's an unfortunate, but I think Malcolm came to that conclusion, right? Malcolm came to that conclusion when he came back from Mecca. He's like, yo, I got to leave these folks behind. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to get somewhere. This is where he was talking in his Ballad of the Bullet speech, when he's talking about creating an orthodox Muslim religion. People don't understand. Malcolm stopped being a Muslim because the NOI is not an orthodox Muslim religion. But he was like, I'm going to create a religion organization, number one. And I'm going to create a political organization, number two. You know what I mean? We did not get the best version of Malcolm because a few weeks later he's murdered, right?
Yeah.
So we did not get the best version of Malcolm. But but I took from that, like, or if even if you read anything from Frederick Douglass is talking in the same manner too. Like, look, man, we're not going to be able to, there's some people that are just going to have to catch up. You know what I'm saying? The civil rights movement wasn't all these millions of people. It was just, hundreds of thousands, you know what I'm saying? And then other people, catch up, you know what I'm saying? So, when we speak into, these individuals like a Kanye, a black capitalist, man. Yeah, man, we can't be looking to these folks. To me personally, you can't be looking at any black capitalists. I don't care who they are. You know what I mean? Jay-Z, Diddy, Oprah, or, Tyler Perry. I don't care who they are. If they aren't, aggressively putting back into the community, then we can't look to them as leaders, man. There are people on the ground who are helping, and doing the work, what I mean, of black people for black people, what I mean, and for progress, more importantly, what I'm saying. So,
Ooh, man. Woo. For the people paying attention, man, like I hope they're paying attention because it's smoking hot in here. And I mean, like, y'all bringing that fire, and like I gotta thank y'all because like already we're 40 minutes in, and it's just like it feels like I just started, but it feels like I'm watching one of those movies you just don't want to end. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We're getting there, and so as we're
Hey,
talking
can I
about
ask
all
you
those,
something real quick, bro? Like
oh,
Doc is challenging me, man, because Doc is speaking. He's in my head, so I got to come up with it. Whenever I begin to talk, I got to come up with something else, man, because he, you know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
bro,
hey,
hey,
go
but
ahead.
I will tell you, man. One of the things that I find out is when we were talking about unification theory.
Mm-hmm.
See, the thing is I'm not in your head. The thought is already there. And
Yeah,
see,
Already
when we share thought, because thoughts have mass,
yeah.
thoughts have energy. And when
Right.
more people start thinking certain things, then what happens a lot of times is we don't create this process of individuals anymore because now collective consciousness happens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where power comes, because
Right.
one of the biggest tools, the reason that they sold family members far apart is because they understood the collectiveness of a family as a power unit. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to disrupt that. And I think that when I talk about unification strategy, I always look for areas that I agree with people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't agree on, we can agree on 8 out of 10 things. And those last two, we'll leave those alone. But we only gonna focus on what we agree on, because I believe that we've gotten to this culture where if I don't agree with everything you say, we can't walk together. And it's like, no, we disagree. But I will tell you, one of the problems that I find out is that if our disagreement is based off ideology, then I will tell you to challenge mine. Challenge mine, because I'm going to challenge yours.
Every day.
And see, the problem that I find out is that we've gotten to a culture of people who take my word for it,
Mm-hmm.
believe what I say. And I'm thinking that the idea of scholarship is that I need to have my own data, so that therefore I'm not talking to a person anymore. I'm talking to a mentality. And the beauty of it is that that mentality already has its thoughts before you interact.
Okay. Welcome to the next section of aggressively objective, which is backwards because it's objectively aggressive. But if you're paying attention, right? What's the difference between me and you? Hey, plausibility and probability. You said something about take my word for it, trust me, like it's going to happen, right? So is that plausibility or is that probability?
Well, hey man, a lot of time it's just cap.
Okay, so here's something. So the unified thought happens, right? And so what I want with objectively aggressive is sometimes we tend to get caught up in our rational thoughts so much. You need emotion to make decisions and to get shit moving, right? So objectively aggressive is the voice to help motivate emotion. And so what you get here at Objectively Aggressive is logic, passion, and credibility. Okay. And so what we talk about here is a lot of different things, right? Like we talk about blackness, but this isn't to exclude, this is to be inclusive, to let people know that there's a lot of different people who exist out here. And so we talk about a lot of different things, and it's not to be caged, right? And so plausibility versus probability is something that is more likely to be understood emotionally because a picture is painted versus probability, which is a statistical fact, right? And so in this world we live in, I think, and I speculate, and I have a theory, and my hypothesis would be people use the word synonymously when it's not to be misunderstood that way. Because the brain is a very tricky thing.
Yeah.
And so emotion is it's such an elephant of a mass of feeling that it can make a person disregard actual statistics.
Facts.
Right. And so we get into this world where people start arguing their particular ideology because the way it lines up is plausible to them. Like a black person who thinks that money is going to make them not black. There was something that was plausible about them, but the probability is they might feel it in certain points in time, but if they're truly connected in the unity group energy, you'll never be there because it's based in the wrong place. I say all that to say, what's the difference between me and you? People need to understand that just because something seems plausible doesn't necessarily make it probable. And that's the American dream.
Yeah. And
that's the American dream.
And so part of it is not to touch the sacred cow. See, as young, we socially learn not to question authority. We learn if something don't make sense, have faith. And this is the role of the church and religion and emotion. This is why I believe that the church is the number one untouched thing. It's because you need a place where you can let emotion dictate reality. So, for example, empirically, I will tell you this. I say we have gotten to a point where I can't tell you the truth because I don't want to offend your strongly held belief.
Right.
And so our consciousness cannot coexist if we live in different realities.
Right.
That's what psychosis is. We cannot exist in the same time and space if we don't share reality. And so what I find out is this is what the tribalism nature is. Emotionalism is that I don't care. That's what makes Trump so powerful. He don't care about facts or truth. He just cares that people agree with him.
Right.
And that's the challenge that we run into, is because you cannot have a conversation with somebody and expect to learn something if you are not prepared to let your beliefs go by the wayside.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Doc?
Yeah.
There's something that you touched on that I wanna acknowledge that I've recognized in the white community that we as Black people maybe heard of and tried to adopt, but it just didn't work. And that was the not talking about certain things like religion, politics, and money type things, right? And that kind of kept people in line to like be nice, be cordial, don't talk about these things because they could be offensive and da. And that can create this world where you don't understand how other people live, especially like if you're dealing with Black folks. And I always go back to how white folks, if they were to show up and be around a dominoes or spades game, it'll blow their mind, right? And so what I'm saying is, what I hear you saying, Doc, is like that existence of not even understanding how another person lives.
Yeah. And
mental model myopia.
But that lies in our challenge, is that the idea of objective truth is one of the problems because when we filter things through our ideological belief, we have to take the a priori first. We have to build the foundation off a framework. And see, I don't take the idea that we are in a system of people who said all men are created equal, but I'm going to own you like a cattle. See, that's cognitive dissonance. So what do I do to remove the instability of my brain from these contradictory ideas? And all that we've created in America is we've been living in the concept of somebody's worldview who hated us. And when we challenge that worldview, we're not just challenging their worldview, we are challenging the foundation of their core, which will shake them and they will escape you. They will not have that discussion. Boom. They will run away. And that's where I think the problem is that we don't want people to run, but at the same time, they need to run for their safety because they feel threatened, because their fragility kicks in. And we have to be mindful of that.
And this is why white people live around white people, right? Yeah. They do so for comfortability, right? Black people, we live around black people for protection. Like that's what society has shown. That's what the data shows. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tay.
No. I was gonna say, the one of the things I realize is language, man. Like language, like our American language. Number two, there's two things going on. You know what I'm saying? Our education has been defunded for 40 years. 40 plus years we've had education defunded. So we don't have and that's so that you have a population that when they graduate at 18, they're okay with the capitalistic system telling them that $7 an hour is a livable wage, right? And they won't fight for nothing else, right? Or healthcare or healthy environment and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? But more importantly, we have defunded education and we have defunded public colleges. Like people need to understand that. Public colleges used to be funded. We have defunded them, you know what I mean? So that we don't have a population that can think, you know what I'm saying? And so our conversations have been dumbed down because, you know what I mean, we have elevated opinions and they're the same as facts. You know what I mean? So somebody will literally argue with you, you know what I mean, that the earth is flat. You know what I mean? They literally had a conversation, you know what I mean? ESPN went on a whole thing, you know what I mean, with Kyrie Irving talking about the earth is flat when we know it's round. It's been around for forever. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? And then when we talk about language, like our American language is such that we got to have these long drawn out conversations because we take every word literal. People will take every word literal. We don't understand context. We're a very low context country, right? We're very low context.
I would say that I agree with you, but people tend to do that shit when it is very convenient for them, because when we want to be on the same page, we all can be on the same page. It don't matter who they is, what it is. When it comes to certain situations, you can look at folks in America and be like, and they know what is going on. It's just when people want to take things like, oh no, I don't agree with that right now. So what was that word you said? No, I don't agree with that word. So therefore that makes the whole theory, throw it out.
But again, that comes from being comfortable. People dismiss you on purpose, right? When we bring up, I mean, you have the current president of the United States call a certain political party fascist. And people cannot define fascism when they are actually fascist. You know what I'm saying? And then when you try to define it, right? That's not me. I'm not that. You know what I'm saying? They don't see themselves as that. You know what I'm saying? Because they themselves don't understand, because we've been dumbed down. You know what I'm saying? You try to call somebody a Christian nationalist. They don't understand that. So we live in a world, we live in a country where we're all on the same earth, but we all have different realities, man. You know what I'm saying? And while culturally we can do the looks and we can do the we can give the we do this thing and this thing, and we can communicate without speaking, you know what I mean? But when we're trying to speak racially, that doesn't work. We have to have conversations, and those conversations are very long because because of our language, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Language
Right.
barrier. Yeah.
Okay, so moving into the quick Cochlear explanation, fellas. We're gonna move into the Cochlear explanation with the 1 minute segment. So I'm gonna go with my Cochlear explanation of what Tay and what we were just saying. And so understanding that I live in a world where I recognize that we can't take everybody with us, and everyone's going to have their opinion, and people are going to dissent when they feel like it's convenient for them. And so I've recognized that when you have a goal and there are things you want to do, regardless of what it is, you'll get the support from whoever. You'll take it, but you got to take it cautiously. So my calculated explanation is sometimes you just have to look at who's supporting you, why they're supporting you, and where you're trying to go and where they're trying to go, and make sure all that aligns, because you can end up in a situation like, Kanye, or you can find yourself surrounded by people who you thought you trusted, but guess what? You don't trust anybody, and you find yourself, regardless of what they look like, around not friendly people. And so as we wrap this up, cochlear explanation, I say that know who you are and know who you're around, and that shouldn't matter the color. But I'm serious, because that color thing. I'm African American, Afro American, black falls under the if I'm not white, I'm black, and so that makes it oppressive. Cool, I'll live inside of that, but I won't address myself as that. And I know I went over a minute, but I'll take host graciousness. Hey Doc, can you give me your cocky explanation? This sucks
Hey
about
man,
love.
I will tell you to connect to what he said about vocabulary and words, man. It's important. My undergraduate is in English, and I find that James Baldwin, Richard Wright, Ralph Ellison, Du Bois, the black writers who wrote about the black experience when we were experiencing at the heat of it, we need to reconnect their voices, because their voices matter today. And I will tell you, man, when you start to talk about the language, it's the codes. It's the codes that allows you to see beyond the astral. You can actually understand that I may not understand how to articulate my existence, but I know that others have, and I can use their words. But to your point about love, I will tell you is I've seen a lot of people mistake love for necessity. And the idea is that you don't build something with the purpose of destroying it. And for most people, I find, this is a quote that I use, is that sometimes you burn your dreams and build your reality from the ashes. And a lot of times what love becomes is an amalgamation of all of the experiences, and you may never find it. But the idea that you want it will always keep you looking for it.
Good wrap up, Doc. All right. Calculate explanation, Tay. You got a minute?
Oh man, I don't even know what I'm gonna explain, man.
Well, let's take that.
Well, I tell you, man. My cocky explanation is black culture, man. That's what I'm. My cocky explanation is black culture, man.
Go off.
I would really like for black people to understand that we are an ethnic group and talk as an ethnic group. Understand that the 14th and the 15th Amendment, and then sadly the 13th Amendment, was created for us. Those are our constitutional amendments. So when you have your constitutional amendment violated, you need to speak as such. You know what I'm saying? We need to look at each other positively, look at each other with value, human value, bring back the humanity in each of us, man, and stop placing our humanity in things, right? Stop, in Gucci flip flops or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I really wish rap music would just bring back quote unquote conscious rap music, because we need it. We really truly need it. And if you are 45 or so, 45 years and under, we're the OGs now. So we need to start acting like OGs. That's it.
Oh, that's what's up. I agree with that, man. So that's a plug. Like I got some albums coming out. Some of it's gonna be enough to where you be like, and you be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I get it. So hip hop still lives, man. So on the way out, on objectively aggressive. So we got our money tip and our book tip. So book tip for me, I'm gonna start with book real quick. The Alchemist. Had a good friend of mine, Chief Jameson, post this on Facebook, and I was like, oh yeah, Maktub, right? And so check that book out, man. It's being an alchemist. That just you take the elements around you and you make gold. So it's like turning paint into product, man. You just you know all the elements. And since me being a legal professional, we work with elements with evidence. So I was like, yeah, I'm an alchemist, so I can get with this. Money tip. Hey, so there was something in these new IRS tax breakdown along with the 87,000 blah blah blah. Like they put some stuff in there that they'll start tracking like Cash App up to like past $500 for the year or something of that.
I think if it's for businesses, if it's business transactions, but you can just put it in there as a gift. You just say it's a gift.
But you have there needs to be. You have to look at it, right? So something came up. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in it at all, but I was pinged to be careful with how it's being used. And so my money tip is within the years and these bills being passed and people using these apps with the money and stuff, just be careful. That's my money tip and my book, The Alchemist. Doc.
The United Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter racist code, and a guide. One of the things that our community does not have is a code, a street code of how to deal with white supremacy. But Millie Fuller made a code. It's 11 areas about how racism works. He breaks each area down into how to have a conversation and how to identify when somebody is trying to use their superiority against you, how to identify, recognize it, and how to respond to it. And the areas, man, like I said, he breaks it down into 11 different sections. He starts off and he goes off with first, he talks about economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war. So war and counter war is the last ones. But I will tell you the reason that we don't see as much success is because we don't understand that the people that we are opposed to have a code. They have a code. Like white silence is part of the code. When we see injustice, just be quiet. Let it pass over. That's part of the code. And so we need a code too. So for example, part of the code is I'm not going to say the negative about a black person. I'm not going to do nothing negative because I'm breaking the code. So, but that's important. And so the money tip I would say this is the idea of knowing the IRS code, not in specificity, but knowing how to do your own taxes. Most people don't know how to do their own taxes. They refer to an agency, H&R Block, they don't know how. But there's courses that you can take to educate yourself on how to do your own taxes. And it's not hard, especially if you ain't got a business and if you ain't doing a lot of itemized deductions. It's very simple. You can save your money. Plus, you can learn that taxes in the tax code is what the rich people do. They know how the taxes work. And it's one of those things that anything that they don't teach you in school is something that needs to be highlighted afterwards. They don't tell you about the tax code. So I would encourage people to understand that you can go on YouTube, watch a 10-minute video on how to fill out a 1040 EZ. And you can, and it'll definitely, because we're coming up on that tax time. And I find that when I was overseas, we didn't have an IRS agent. So the IRS sent some agents over to train us. I was like, me and somebody else, they trained us how to do everybody's taxes. And when I learned how to do it, I'm like, man, this is where the money is at.
Correct.
That's
What
facts.
you got, Tay?
Brother. So the book recommendation that I got is called "When Affirmative Action Was White." One of the things about Black culture and Black experience is that we went from protest. We went from protest to politics, but we never transitioned from politics to power. You know what I mean? And the reason we didn't is because we let the patriarchy, the white patriarchy, led us to believe that we can't use the power of the government to give us that power. You know what I'm saying? This book goes over how this country gave Europeans, who would later become white, gave them the economic grounds and gave them in order to, in order for them to build wealth. They did not build wealth out of nothing. They built wealth from Black labor. They built wealth from the exploitation of Black labor. And when we're talking about taxes, one of the exploitative ways that this book talks about is that, for instance, I did an ancestry thing, found both my grandparents on my mom and my dad's side, and they both had land, right? And it said that they were farmers, but they were renters, meaning they were sharecroppers, meaning that they paid taxes in the 1930s and the 1940s. But what was happening in the 1930s and the 1940s, those taxes were used to build the suburbs. White people were building, and white people went and lived in those suburbs. That means that those homes had value, and they were able to flip those value to send their kids to colleges. And oh, by the way, those suburbs was also built close to the jobs, as those factory jobs were leaving the Black community and moving out to the suburbs, and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, it's a really good book, man, to tell people, to get Black people to understand that, look, man, we have to build power. We have to learn how to build power, and that's through what Doc is saying, through unification. We have to unify. We have to unify the methods of government, education, environment, wages, and I know I'm missing a few out there, but we have to take all these things and unify it so that we can have power. We can build power.
Okay. Good stuff. So, was that the quick money tip? Was that money tip in there with that,
Oh,
or
money tip, man. If I had a money tip, it is understand taxes, man. We need to understand something, man. If you are like taxes, how taxes work. If Black, there's one thing that people don't know. When Black couples, right? I have another book called I don't see it. Hold on. Let me see.
Two Book Tuesday?
The Whiteness of Wealth, man. The Whiteness of Wealth. The Whiteness of Wealth. In this book, it talks about how okay, so Black people, when they get married or cohabitate, we pay more taxes. Why do we pay more taxes? Because both people will work. And since both people work, they pay taxes. Well, white families, generally only one person works. Well, guess who ends up getting the bigger refund throughout the year? That white family. You know what I'm saying? It's because we don't understand taxes. We don't understand. Number one, we don't understand we pay too much taxes as a regular American. You know what I'm saying? We just pay way too much taxes. So we just have to understand taxes. You know what I'm saying? That's my money tip.
Man, sounds like we need to have a spinoff segment on taxes itself. Love and taxes. I love and taxes.
Man,
I appreciate you, good gentlemen.
Sir.
Stand up guys. It's been great. I wish we had some more time. We're gonna try to find some more time. I want to get my boy Jason on here as well. I want to have a marathon session one time and talk about this lack of mothers situation and how it affects us. So we're gonna get that together, gentlemen. Hey, I appreciate it. We're gonna try to get together next Tuesday again if we can, or Wednesday. We're staying flexible. We know the key to power is flexibility, right? Okay. So yeah, y'all stay up. Everybody out there tuned in. Appreciate y'all. The website's coming up, so y'all stay tuned into that. Got the clothing line, objectively Adarare. All right. So get your stuff there. Show your reverence. All right. So Adarare being of reverence and adoration to the point of worship. But you can look at the workup for that. All right. That's it on this side, man. Y'all take it easy.
All right, gentlemen.
All right. Hey.
Peace.
Oh, dang. I was gonna tell the good doc, man. I gotta have